Howdy folks, welcome back to Boondockery. Today I have a tale of two smocks for you, the Helikon PCS Smock and the SORD Tactical Smock. If you're unfamiliar with the term smock, a smock is nothing more than a utility garment that you wear over your clothing. Now when you're referring to a military smock, you're referring to an outer garment that goes over your regular uniform. I was issued a similar piece of equipment when I was in the United States Army, the M65 Field Jacket. Now, even in the early 80s, the British military smocks were designed much better and much more purpose-driven than our old M65 Field Jackets. Before we get too deep into this, I was getting all of my gear ready for next weekend's bushcraft gathering in Zanesfield, and I was going through some fleeces, things like that, that it's going to get cool next weekend. And it's probably going to be overnight lows in the mid upper 40s, and the highs shouldn't be any more than the low to mid 70s. So during the evenings, you know, a fleece would be pretty nice. And as I was going through these winter wear items, I just happened to pull out a couple of smocks that I had purchased, you know, a good time ago. And I thought, well, this seems like a great opportunity to talk about winter and fall apparel in the form of the smocks that I have. The first smock I'm going to talk about is the Helikon Smog. Now, the Helikon PCS Smock I'm talking about is not the Helikon-tex PCS Smock that they're producing today. I bought this 11 years ago in a military surplus store in Cambridge, England. And at the time, if I'm not mistaken, Helikon was a sort of a budget brand. It hadn't been around too long as far as producing and selling things to the West. I believe it's a Polish company. And at that time, finding things that were multicam was a big challenge, at least to find it that it wasn't astronomically expensive like buying things directly from Crye Precision. So me and my brother Jamie went into the surplus store. I saw this smock hanging on the wall. It's multicam. Helikon calls it Camogrom. Virtually identical. And I try it on. Look at the price tag, it was 85 pounds. I probably paid close to about 150 for it, and I was absolutely elated because I had something that not only could I not find anything like in the States, but really at that time it was inexpensive to say the least. And you know, like I said, I've worn this thing quite a bit. And there were some issues, and I'll talk about those in a few minutes. And then probably about 4 to 5 years ago, I was in a financial position to where I could, you know, take a little holiday, take a little vacay. So me and my son Ryan, we went down to the Knob Creek machine gun shoot. We hit a gun show. We hit the National Prepper and Survival Conference in Louisville, Kentucky. And while we were at the gun show, the other gun show that was at the machine gun shoot, they had a representative there from SORD Tactical. And it's S-O-R-D Tactical, not S-W-O-R-D Tactical. And I decided that he had a promo going on and their smocks were 50% off. I said, I got to get one of these. But they didn't have any multicam smocks that would fit. They were either astronomically huge or they were just too small. So he said, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Here. He wrote down a promo code for me. He said, when you get back home, go ahead and where it says promo code, go ahead and type that in, you'll get the full discount. So that's what I did. And that's how I came about getting these two smocks. Like I said, they aren't new, but they are both, it's still in fantastic condition. The first smock I'm going to talk about is the Helikon Smog. I went through the website, pulled up all the information they had on their latest smock. And with two exceptions, it's practically the same design. On my smock, the hood is actually removable with buttons. I'll show you more about that in a minute. The other difference was the sleeves have a pocket on the shoulder of each sleeve. On the new design, the pockets are actually oblique. They're a little easier to get into than these, which are vertical. Other than that, they're pretty much the same design. As a matter of fact, it's available, the new version is available in polycotton and ripstop or polycotton twill. This happens to be the polycotton twill. Now, I will tell you right off the bat that when I got this, I was absolutely elated. When I took it home, it finally got cool enough for me to use it. I kept losing buttons. I'm certain the quality control has increased exponentially since I purchased this. But what was going on is the webbing that holds these wonderful Canadian buttons on, they weren't sewn on very well, and they were pulling off. I was losing the buttons and some of the webbing. So right there, as soon as I realized what the problem was, I went through and I re-sewed every single one of the pieces of webbing that was holding the Canadian buttons on. And I haven't had a single problem since. I did lose one button completely. I couldn't find it. But I also, at the same surplus store, purchased a small British military sewing kit, which just happened to have extra Canadian buttons, both the large and the small. I'm just going to do a top from the bottom review of all the features that are available on this smock. When I told you that the hood was removable, the hood is removable. The new design, the hood is not removable. The hood, we'll start with the hood. There's a wire in here that you can mold and shape around your face. And when I was in the United States Army, our winter parkas had a removable hood that did the same thing. There was a wire that could really get that to where you only see just a little bit of your face sticking out of there, and it's really great in high winds. Not a problem there. However, eventually, if these get moved around too much in the same spot, they will snap. I learned that when I was in the Army too. There's Velcro closures at the bottom of the hood, and I'll put this on and model it for you to show you how all these features work. There are drawstrings that will pull the sides of the hood in and up, get it closer to your face. And on the back, there's a Velcro tab that can adjust to pull the hood further back on your head so that the opening of the hood won't completely obscure it when there's not high winds or it's just not that cold. The removable buttons. They're right here. These are small Canadian buttons, and they're attached to the hood with a piece of webbing, and the buttonhole is only through the outer layer of the fabric. The buttonhole does not go all the way through, which in itself isn't necessarily bad. It's just I personally feel that trying to put them in a single layer instead of through to the back layer just isn't as easy. When you can push it all the way through, it's a little easier. Going on up, we have this real nice tab with a large Canadian button that is for rank insignia. You can also put things like compasses, things like that on there. Anything that you'd want to have quick and ready access for, but it was originally designed for rank recognition. On both sides of the chest, there are two pockets. One standard pocket, and the other a zip pocket. Inside this zip pocket, there's a small organizing pocket for ink pens. It's mesh lined, goes all the way back underneath this area here. It's absolutely fantastic for keeping maps in or anything that you would have a need for that you need to access readily. You can also keep things inside this area that you need to keep warm. I would probably put my battery packs in here to keep them warm. And one of the things I absolutely love about the British design of Smock, and I did have a British DPM Smock years ago, I wound up giving it to a friend of mine, is the way the pockets are designed. The large Canadian buttons are so easy to open and to close even when you're wearing gloves. It's absolutely fantastic. Repairing the webbing around these buttons is so much easier than your traditional 4-buttonhole military GI button, a US GI button, to where you actually have to sew it all in there. And the best thing about the webbing is if by any chance you lose this, piece of 550 cord, cut it to length, remove the fibers from the inside, flatten it out, you've got webbing that will fit perfectly in here. This is the best part about these pockets. Okay, here we go. You open it up and look, there's this flap that comes up toward the top of the top flap. So when you fold it down, it makes it impossible for anything to fall out of your pockets. That was brilliant. Now granted, on this particular smock, these flaps do not come up as high as my old British DPM military smock. They came all the way up. And I never had a problem with these failing as far as doing what they're supposed to do, keeping things in the pockets. But that's absolutely brilliant. And plenty of space. And on the bottom, all the pockets are ventilated. So if by any chance you have something that you need to get to, it's raining, the rain is not going to stay in your pocket. It's going to drain out. Also, if you have a pair of damp gloves or something like that that you don't want to wear, you can put them in there and there's going to be airflow in there to get those items dry. These two pockets are on either side of the chest. Moving right on down to the bottom section, you have two more. These are much larger pockets. And again, large Canadian buttons and the flap that folds over it. Very spacious. Each one of these, very easily, you could break down an MRE and put in one of these pockets. It's very, look how big it is compared to my hand. So you can put a lot of stuff in there. Also, beside that pocket is a zipper pocket. And inside there, again, the entire interior is mesh lined. I'll show you that in a second. It's fleece lined. So if your hands are cool, you need to warm them up a little bit, slide them right inside there, and it's very, very soft. It's very warm. It's very comfortable. That goes, the interior pocket goes all the way over to the zipper that runs over here. So that's a significant amount of space as well. Granted, the interior is mesh. So you might be limited as to the types of things that you can put in this particular pocket. But if you're just using them to keep your hands warm and just putting a couple light things like a pair of gloves or something like that, I mean, that's more than sufficient. Midway up, there is a drawstring that you access from the inside of the smock. There is a flap closure over the entire zipper of Velcro. Now it is not a YKK zipper, however, this is a very well made zipper. It's large toothed, so you don't have to worry about things snagging, and it's plastic. And I have had less problems with plastic zippers than I have with the brass zippers that are on a lot of military equipment. You have a top zip that will go down And you also have a bottom zip. So if you need to take a little break and relieve yourself, you can just unzip that to be able to access that very important thing. So you can take care of business there, and goes all the way down. So unzip this all the way and take it off. It is a left-handed zip, like a lot of British military equipment goes. It is a left-handed zip, and so therefore if you are used to right-handed zips, it takes a little bit of getting used to. On the interior of the flap, there are extra buttons that are sewn in there, and since there is only one set of those, when I first saw those I thought it was designed for a particular extreme cold weather liner, but it's not. Those are just extra buttons. You have a channel that goes through here all the way through the back, and those are adjustable for a drawstring. Granted, this particular design is not particularly sophisticated, but it definitely works. It takes a little bit of messing around with to get that adjusted, but the nice thing is where you finally wind up tying your waistband adjustment, which is just below the sternum, you have the exterior armpit ventilation. So you can access that adjustment cord right there. You also have cord adjustments on the bottom with a standard bungee cord and cord locks. And the first several years I wore this was absolutely fantastic in the winter, because I could cinch it around my waist and cinch this around my hips, and that really kept a lot of the harsh winds from getting up underneath my jacket. And a lot of jackets that don't have this feature, if you're in strong winds, it's definitely going to cause you some problems. Now we're going to look at the sleeves. The new design, the sleeves are not vertical like this. However, I mean, you know, they're easier to access than the vertical sleeves by being oblique. But these are still great pockets. Velcro closure on these pockets. You have openings here for pins, or probably chem lights, any other piece of equipment. You could probably put a small pocket knife in there, small flashlight, something like that. And the fact that this is right alongside here, that's a quick ready access to a pen. You also have a zip pocket right directly behind this Velcro panel that you can put your identifying unit patches and things like that. Now, when you go down the sleeve, you'll notice that there's virtually no substantial reinforcement on the elbows. It is a double layer of fabric, and so, you know, there is reinforcements there. It's just not particularly substantial. We're going to flip this around to show you the back. On the back of this smock, there are 0 pockets or anything like that. And the reason I'm showing you this is because when you see the SORD Smock and you see what SORD did with their design, your thing is like, well, okay, that sounds pretty good. On the ends of the sleeves, before I move on, at the wrists, they're Velcro adjustable closures, and they adjust quite a bit. So if you're wearing heavy bulky clothes underneath this, heavy gloves, something like that, especially mittens that are really thick, that can be up in the sleeve, you adjust them just a small amount. If you don't have that, you can adjust that to where it's right up against your wrists, and they work great. Absolutely fantastic. There was one more thing I wanted to show you with the interior. on this that I forgot to point out is that even though there's not an exterior pocket on the back of the smock, there are two mesh pockets. It's not very substantial, so you could probably fold maps, something in there it's going to be fairly rigid and lightweight so it wouldn't fall out. I could see this being the potential to where you could cut a couple little panels of isomat out of it and put in these mesh pockets on the interior bottom of the smock. And it's long enough to where you could actually use that for built-in padding and insulation to keep you from getting a cold bum when you're sitting on top of an armored vehicle, or even like cold rock or anything like that in the winter. But even though there's no exterior bottom pockets underneath the waist or at the waistline, you do have these two mesh interior pockets. Now I'm going to go through the SORD Smock exactly the way I did with the Helikon Smog. We'll start up here with the hood. The hood is not removable on this, it's fixed. A lot of different things about this hood is that you have a built-in bill that comes over your face, but it doesn't surround your face like the Helikon hood did. There's also no rear adjustment on the back of the hood to adjust it to pull it back from your face. If you're wearing a cap, there's really no need to have that feature at all. This is designed to where it will fit over a military helmet. Both of them were. And the drawstring here and here will cinch this area right through here, up and around, and will close that space up to protect you from any of the draft, negating the need for the heavy wire. This shock cord that's in here is very substantial, very flexible, but it stays in form. It doesn't bend and stay in position like the Helikons does. You have Velcro closure all the way up. On the front, you have a very similar feature to the Helikon, and this is a fairly standard item now on just about any type of military garment for outerwear, is to have the rank insignia tab. They've retained using the Canadian buttons, which I actually love. The color matches multicam perfectly, and the webbing that they use to attach the buttons is also multicam. You have two breast pockets on either side, again very similar to the Helikon model, and you have a bent over flap to keep things from falling out. These are a little deeper than the Helikon. You have one zip here that allows you to access your pockets of your shirt that you may be wearing underneath of the smock. On the other side of the pocket, you have another zip that allows you to get into a very large pocket. The pocket goes from about right here, which is the waistline, all the way up. And right now I've got a pair of gloves in there, and which is very convenient access for anything you need to access quickly. Those features are just mirrored over on the other side. Moving on down to the waistline, we have the drawstring adjustment on the waistline here as well, except this one is just a little more convenient to adjust than the Helikon, in that your adjustments are right inside the opening of the smock. Again, we have the left-handed zip, and if you are used to US made garments, it's silly, but for one reason or another, someone decided a long time ago that men's apparel would have a right-handed zip and women's apparel would have a left-handed zip. So when I first put this on, that's the first thing I thought of was the female zippers on jackets. Come on down through here. You have two vertical pouches on either side, again with the flap. All of these have the flaps that prevent anything from falling out of them. You have those on either side. However, you notice there is no hand warmer pockets on these. We're going to rotate this around to the side, and there is another pocket. Exactly the same size as the one that's directly on the front. These are on the side. Rotating it on around to the back. There is a very large pocket here in the back. And again, it has the closure, fold over closure, keeps things from falling out. So along your waist, you have this one large pocket and two very substantial pockets, one on the side and one directly in the front. Let's take a look at the sleeves. On this design, the sleeves are very similar to the Helikon. There is a zip pocket you can access. There is a smaller pocket on the exterior of that pocket. And there is panels that come with the smock. So if you're not using a unit identifier, you can actually put that right over top of the Velcro. Make it a little lower profile. There are no pin pockets in these pockets. Little areas where you can put ink pens or the like was on the Helikon sleeves. Now, this is a very substantial reinforcement on the elbows. The actual elbow would be right here. This is a very heavy Cordura nylon, and it almost feels as though it's dimpled. And so not only do you have added protection for your sleeves and your elbow, but you also, it has a little bit of a grip to it. I really like that. At the bottom, you have almost an identical Velcro closure to the wrists as with the Helikon. Also, like the Helikon, there is a large armpit ventilation, which I have used this a lot. If you can unzip the front of your smock and open up these vents here, you can actually wear this in fairly warm weather. Not hot weather, but warmer weather. And that is essentially the features of the SORD Smock. I'm going to show you a real quick side-by-side comparison between the Helikon Smock and the SORD Smock. The SORD Smock is made from the polycotton ripstop, and the Helikon is made from the polycotton twill. This feels almost identical to the field jacket I had when I was in the Army. Even though this is ripstop, I think because of the quality of zips that are on this and some of the other reinforcements and just a heavier duty materials, this one's feels just a little heavier. I'll tell you what the actual weights are here in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and model both of these for you so you can see what they look like on me. Now, even though neither of these smocks were ever designed to have a specific liner being able to be attached to the interior of either of these smocks, that doesn't mean you can't have extra insulation. This is one I wear with mine. I've picked up several very lightweight down filled jackets over the years. I buy them from discount retailers like TJ Maxx, places like that, and believe it or not, this one was a Nautica. It originally retailed for almost $200, and I was able to pick it up for $60. And it fits perfect. It has a built-in hood. So I put this on, put my smock over top of it. It is substantially warmer in the colder weather. So don't let the idea that there's just not a designed liner in these to keep you warm let you think that, well, it's not going to be that warm. By itself, if you're active, this is plenty warm enough. If you add any type of layering underneath of it, it is very warm. But the one thing is that if you do get overheated, you unzip the armpit vents, it's not going to do much. You can unzip the liner after you unzip the front of your jacket or your smock, but that's it. And tighten this around, zip it up. It's probably in the low to mid 70s here today, so I probably won't get too overheated. We're going to go ahead and zip it all up so you can see it. And you have those nice warming pockets down here, easy access. The zips are very good. You have this huge pocket here, the other one right here. Again, these Canadian buttons make it so easy to open the pockets to access what you need from these. They're easier to unbutton than they are to button one-handed, but it's still very, very impressive. The vertical sleeves, access pins, what have you, anything you need to get a hold of real quick, compasses, flashlight, what have you there. And the hood, again, the hood is removable, which a lot of people would think that that's a plus. It doesn't really bother me if it is removable or not. I'd like to have it with me. The new design that they have for this, the hood actually rolls up and stores in the collar, which is good. You can stow it if you don't want it, but you don't have to worry about losing it because it's completely detached. The thing about both of these smocks, they're designed to be very roomy and spacious. I've got this one adjusted to where it's holding to my midsection a little bit more than what it normally does, but they're really designed for you to be able to wear armor underneath of them, tactical rig, what have you. And this is the section where the cord adjustment is. We access through the armpit vent. It's right here. Again, maybe not the best way to adjust it. You definitely need to take it off to adjust it, or have someone else adjust it for you while you're wearing it. But you can see that the interior is completely mesh lined, and the draw cord down around is probably, it's exactly at my fingers straight, arms extended down, mid-thigh, which is an absolutely fantastic length. It completely covers my hind end. And so the two pockets that were mesh on the inside, if you were to have some isomat, some type of padding there, that would stay in good position, so when you sit, that padding would be there. It's an interesting idea. Whether or not it's practical, I don't know. That might be an experiment for another time. And we're going to put on the SORD Tactical Smock. Both of them, the Velcro is very good quality, very good quality. Both of them are labeled large. I do believe that the SORD Tactical Smock actually is much larger than the Helikon large, which allows you to be able to have more things on the inside underneath the smock. If you notice, this was a one-way zip. Helikons is a two-way zip. And even on the new model, that exists. I have my one access to my inner pockets here. My access pockets in here. Ooh, money, awesome. And the zips work great. There's very well designed pulls for the zips of the SORD Tactical Smock as well. This pocket here, if you notice, I was able to zip that and unzip it without holding my sleeve. It's just much more rigid. It's just a much higher quality, well-built zip than the one that was on my Helikon. And access, again, the new Helikon has the oblique pockets, which is a much better idea than the vertical. So there's that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big pockets. These pockets are no slouch either. I believe, by looking at these, I'd have to measure them, but these appear to be exactly the same size as the ones on my hips. The drawstring is at my belly button. The Helikons was a little bit higher. The drawstring at the bottom is at exactly the same location. However, the bottom portion of the back of the smock is longer than the front. So when you're sitting, it's going to cover your behind as you sit. I've been looking at this. I've been looking at my waist pack I'm using for my bushcraft patrol rig items, and with the exception of my bill hook that I have strapped on the outside of it, every single thing that I carry in my bushcraft patrol rig will fit in these pockets with all kinds of room to spare. Okay, let's say you're out hunting, you're out boating, you have your personal protective device on. You can put one of these over all of it. Completely conceals my London Bridge trading chest rig. I have my Glock 22 here. I have a total of 6 magazines, trauma kits, all kinds of things attached to it. It covers it completely. Even if I had my complete bushcraft patrol rig contents in these pockets with plenty of room to spare, I'm completely self-contained. I'm completely self-contained. The one thing I do have to tell you, neither of these smocks are waterproof. However, you can assist them by being water resistant by treating them with any number of silicone sprays that are out there for waterproofing, water treatments, things like that. It's all up to you. Me personally, if I'm going to treat anything like that, it would be the hood, the shoulders, and the back. And I probably wouldn't treat the rest because this can breathe, even though, I mean, it's a heavier garment, it can breathe. If you want waterproof, I would look for something waterproof to wear over this as opposed to trying to make this waterproof. Because even if you put the water treatment on there, it's going to make it water resistant. You're going to have to reapply that all the time because it does wear off. But as far as a basic military style smock, I think these both are fantastic. Now, if by any chance anyone out there thinks you might be interested in picking one of these up, I'll put the links to decent websites where you can order them. I'll put the SORD Tactical direct website up for you. They're on sale now for $130 in multicam. Even though my Helikon Smock was Camogrom, aka multicam like, it's not available in Camogrom any longer. It is available in British multi-terrain pattern, MTP, which is an absolutely phenomenal pattern as well. Works very similar to multicam, and the thing I really think is cool about MTP is that they use some of the shapes that used to be in the old DPM pattern. I think that's pretty cool. Now, here in the States, I couldn't find anyone that had camouflage Helikon-tex smocks in stock. There's a lot of flat colors, but Military First, and I'll put the link down below, they probably have the best prices for overseas from the United States, because trying to order things from UK, Europe, and Australia, any of those places, it's for me, it's completely cost prohibitive because of the amount of shipping. However, Military First, their shipping is extremely reasonable with orders over $100. I think shipping cost to the States is something like a standard 2-week is something like probably something close to like $9. And for expedited shipping, which is 3 to 5 days, it's only $15. However, it's a good bit more expensive, but the thing is, you have to remember that that's regular price. The MTP Smock from Helikon-tex from Military First sells for $179 or $172.95 US dollars, I believe. But we add that little bit of shipping on top of it, that's not bad at all. And the SORD Tactical Smock, yes, it's a lot less expensive, but it may not be that way for long, because right now it's about a half price off sale. Folks, I'm just going to share a few final thoughts on these smocks. I like them both very, very much. For the price that I paid for the Helikon Smock, even though I had to do a lot of preventive maintenance on it after I realized there was an issue, it was still well worth the price. Even at paying full price for the SORD Smock, I still think that would have been a worthy investment. I like them both a little bit for different reasons. However, they're both phenomenal pieces of kit. If you're in the market for a medium weight outer garment that has tons and tons of pocket space to store all the stuff you normally have in pockets on things that are underneath your outerwear, this style of garment would definitely probably be right up your alley. I know that Helikon-tex, they make several of these smocks in different colors, and you might be able to get one of those if camouflage is not your thing. Keep in mind that if you do want a multi-cam fabric from Helikon-tex, you won't get it. Camogrom was their answer to it, and I didn't find anything available online in that. It's all British MTP, multi-terrain pattern, which will work with any multicam item that you have. It will blend right in with it. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun pulling them out and re-examining them again and sharing these with you. And I just want to thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you next time.